Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Christmas Eve Freedbag Friday edition of The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the left coast, from the west coast, from behind enemy lines, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
Hey, you left out mudslides. You're from there also. Hey, welcome to the Rundown, where we promise to bring you two-way views and conservative news. This is Mike Powarski coming to you from the East Coast. The guy's got the rain up there.
I guess that makes you Mr. Hurricane.
The mudslides start.
I guess that makes you Mr. Hurricane. I guess that makes you Mr. Hurricane then.
Well, I see. It's not. How many days did it rain there?
It rained for about a week, and still
here come the mudslides.
No mudslides.
Mudslide. They'll be there any moment now. Close the door. Bring in the cat. The mudslides are coming.
You're just hating. As long as it washes everyone down south out.
Yeah, exactly right. It
then
flows out.
I guess I'm okay with that. I guess I can
flows
be okay
out.
with that.
Yep.
So, sir, I know we tried to get our weekend starting like exceptionally early, having a good time.
It's Friday. It's the end of the week. I hear Christmas is coming. You're gonna probably have to start getting ready for that at some point. Other than that, all my work's done. It's been a good week.
Just so you know, Mike is so dedicated to you.
Let's do it.
I was like, yeah, not so much. Brian Bradley says, "Merry Christmas, Mike." In case you watch.
10-foot tree today, and I got one or two spots in the house I could put it, but I thought no, that would be bad. It's a nice cool week. I go outside and open gifts by the 13-foot tree outside at
the wall and put it under your 10-foot tall roof and just have it bent over.
No, I listen. The cathedral ceiling is. Wife came home. She's like, "Why is the tree in the kitchen?" I was like, "Oh, that's where it fits." That's that out and put it in the dining room for that week or two, and we had a 16-foot tree in the kitchen. So,
the plans you got a lot of family coming over for the holiday.
Join it. No, it's a good quiet Christmas. In fact, gonna finish up a little cooking and take a big meal up to the VFW and feed it to those fellow veterans that may not have anybody to hang out with on Christmas.
Well, that is so giving of you, Mike.
Well, we're not going to eat the whole turkey, so I figured, what the hell?
Well, there you go. That's cool. But yeah, it's funny. As you get older, as I've gotten older, I found that Christmas is more fun. Like the giving part of Christmas becomes more fun than the getting part of Christmas.
See, I like the getting out of the house part. That's my fun part.
Well, there you go. Well, we usually Christmas is kind of different. Thanksgiving we always do at home. Christmas though, right. We kind of sometimes we'll go someplace else, sometimes not. But we generally Thanksgiving is home. Christmas we may go over a family member's house depending on what the plan is, who's having the festivities that particular day.
See, it goes back and forth for us. And I'm not saying I don't want to be with my family all the time, but I'm saying I don't want to be with my family all the time, and I don't have to worry about it because I know they don't watch, so it's not a big deal. It's just at a certain point in the afternoon, you're like, okay, I've been watching the same channel too long. It's time to change the station. That's all it is. That's it. Enough football. Let's watch some baseball. That's all.
Let's watch some baseball. Right. So, folks, hey, by the way, so for those of you who are watching on another channel other than the Rundown, just know this is Freedback Friday, where we give away a prize for the best commenter. If we have good comments. So just so you know.
Yeah.
And I know I see some of you are watching us. Some of you are watching us on the Rundown. That's good. Some of you are watching us on 2A News, at Arms Room Radio. If you want to participate in the giveaway, though, you got to find this on Facebook. You have to look for the Rundown on Facebook. Unfortunately, we're stoned. Correct information that they said was false. So
yeah, it was COVID information. I know we've got a COVID story today, so we might get our suspension extended.
Well, the first two anyway. So just
I'll challenge them any day. Like I said, I'll challenge them any day. I've got, like I've said many times before, I'm a licensed physician assistant in the Philippine Islands, and I will for their experts.
Wow. Okay, I'm sure you will. We've seen what they call experts, and they're no experts. So.
Oh, I know.
So. Today's first story. For those of you who have been following the trial related to the killing of or shooting of Daunte Wright, he was an individual who was shot by a law enforcement officer. Her name was Kim Potter. She thought she was grabbing her taser, and she grabbed her gun and wound up shooting him. Of her peers, for some reason, the media went out of their way to point out that she had a mostly white jury, because clearly a jury of mostly white people can't make a just decision. But only in this case, they did. They decided that she was guilty of manslaughter. And, you know, it's funny, Mike. I didn't know exactly, because I didn't really watch the trial, so I didn't know all of the evidence. You know, I read about some of the evidence and everything. But one of the interesting things about this was that they acknowledged that she made a mistake and she was clearly remorseful. But in this particular case, this wasn't about her being remorseful. Both reckless and negligent in terms of how she handled the situation. It was quite an interesting verdict.
The prosecution here was, I lost the word, but the prosecution Rittenhouse and take away from everything that's gone on there, including the case where the bad guy with the warrant was shot reaching for the knife. Remember, where those officers they did not have to be prosecuted. Craig, you said, and you went into this, and you just said it, a reckless and criminal manslaughter. I followed it for a bit. I did not watch every moment of it. I'll tell you that right up front. This was not a criminal homicide or manslaughter. This was a negligent manslaughter. So there was no intent. I really have to say this. I think this was a spiteful prosecution by the state there, trying to again take a.
I don't disagree with that. I think though that she didn't help herself. I mean, here she is. She's supposed to be a training officer, and she made them all put together in the case to make it seem like, she didn't test her. She didn't test her taser before she shot him. They were saying she didn't try to get medical help or medical attention. I just think that in no small part, there was a lot that happened that added to the prosecution's case against her, and her defense team did not do a very good job of very explaining those things.
Very, very poor defense. Listen, she was a training officer. She'd also been out of uniform for, I think it was 12 years at that point, maybe even 15 years. So she had not worn the battle belt. She had not last 12 years. She was not training on tactics and deployment of the taser. She'd just come back into it. She probably hadn't even done her first qualifications since she'd been back in uniform. You know, this is something that her agency let her down, the training staff let her down, and the defense team. I think wholeheartedly this wins an appeal based on improper or failure to provide a proper defense.
I thought she would have been found guilty of second-degree manslaughter. I did not expect first degree.
Well, and this should have been an involuntary manslaughter, which is like their third degree up there. But once again, they've got this weird thing in the law where I don't know how you could be convicted of two different manslaughters. Just like they were trying to convict Rittenhouse. She'd be guilty of 2 counts of manslaughter, and only one person has died.
Especially when they're making, because the is to get them to say, well, if we are not successful in getting her on the first, double jeopardy to me.
Yeah, if this happened anywhere else, it's exactly right. It would be double jeopardy. I mean, it's the same trial, so she's not being tried with it once, but she's definitely.
At the very least, it falls to the other.
Yeah. We'll have to get a hold of a lawyer from up there and get some clarification.
Mostly white jury, because, like I said, Mike, mostly white juries.
Absolutely right.
Seems to be their thought process.
But take a look at Craig, the makeup of the locality or the country.
Well, exactly. Nope. Once again, you get no disagreement. You get no disagreement from you because, by the way, one black juror was like, "Yeah, no, dude's guilty." You had the exact same thing in the trial of the guys who killed Ahmaud Arbery. Once again, no black jurors, and they were convicted. I mean, it's like how people ignore. Or then there was the black guy.
Right.
Who shot and killed a police officer in self-defense, and he was found not guilty. I'm like, how many of these do you need to see before you realize that, you know what, believe it or not, regardless of the race of the jury, you can get fair. Now, there are people who are going to disagree with this one, just like they disagree with the other ones, but you still can come out where, white people can find black people innocent, and white people can find white people innocent, guilty.
I'll have to dig up the story. It was a save it for next week. We'll talk about it then. But Arthur yesterday, that wrote a story about how a certain band was they were just because it was four white guys, and the way they acted on next to each other, first off, there's too many white guys. You can't have a band with that many white guys in it. Four white guys, and that they were homophobic the way that they would sing and dance together on stage, getting up next to the microphones. And then this sounds like, okay, what's this wacky broad talking about? She was talking about the Beatles. And it's just, you're like,
I saw that.
Okay,
I did see that.
Gotcha. Go back and look for something else that's not there. Okay, yeah,
Right.
They're aliens also. They had their hair cut weird. They must have been from space. Yeah.
What about the monkeys?
Well, now Michael Nesmith just did go back to space. I don't know if you saw that. He passed away in the past week or two.
Yes,
so he's back. He's back to his home world. Yeah.
Okay, moving right along. So, SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, that's what that stands for. SCOTUS has decided that they're going to be hearing about President Biden's mandates. You may have seen that in a number of the mandates that President Biden has put forward have actually come under question, and some of them have been overturned by district courts, some of them have been overturned by appellate courts, and some have been overturned by appellate courts. Well, the Supreme Court of the United States is now going to be hearing. They're going to actually be hearing some of these cases where we're going to start to determine when it comes to healthcare workers, large companies. We're pretty soon going to be able to hear whether or not he actually has the authority to force these mandates. And Mike, I'm going to tell you right now, one of the big things that I think is going to come into question is based on Omicron. And I think this is a big one. Omicron, it's already been determined that you have the same chance of catching Omicron whether you're vaccinated or not. It may help with the severity, but you're still going to catch it. You're still going to spread it. And the only real state purpose that they have is to slow down or stop the spread of a disease for vaccinations, to mandate them, are going to work.
Yeah, and remember, the Supreme Court doesn't come up with a decision quick. So if they do even examine what's going on with Omicron, by the time we get to it, ZZ might be out. It might be completely down the end of the chain. So we'll see. I'm curious if they're looking at this as far as granting the injunctions, lifting the injunctions, because we're not going to get a full court examination of this. That's going to take 6 months. This is going to be one of those, we concur or we don't concur. Last time we saw from them, if you recall, a private corporation, and the individual had the opportunity to find employment elsewhere. So the difference this time, Craig, is if it's going to be everywhere, then the individual wouldn't have the opportunity to find employment elsewhere without being under this. So, that their punt that they did a few months ago might have been tactical, just so Biden could have put more mandates out there. And now those individuals that were told could find employment elsewhere, now there is nowhere else for them to find employment.
Right. But then you've also got, for example, healthcare workers. But then the other thing that you've got now is you've got all of these school mandates where they're going to be mandating it on students. The question, once again, is chances are they're not going to get it. And if they get it, chances are it's not going to be severe. And now we know there's no real difference in transmission between if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. How do you now then get away with forcing vaccination? That's going to be a big part of the question that we're going to start to see here. And one has to raise a question of, does that then violate constitutionality by forcing corporations or forcing businesses, large employers, to become an agent of the state as quickly as they want, especially since they're doing this as a special session, and it'll be the only thing they're going to be hearing. Right.
But remember, this is not something where they're going to be, somebody's going to file a writ of certiorari and, try and get the case heard. This is more of on the lines of that now. Remember, the answer before was, we're not going to overturn this because that person has the opportunity to go elsewhere to work or to school. Do you remember it was a college case where the kid went to school and they said, you have to have a vaccine. And he said no. And the court said, well, then go to school elsewhere. I mean, nobody's forcing you to go to school there. So,
right.
Now that the vaccine is now that the mandate is more places, that's
Right.
better to have the better opportunity for the Supreme Court to say, well, we're overturning it because you've given people no choice.
Right. Well, and Brian Bradley points out, he said blue states are the worst ones pushing mandates. He said he went on a cruise last week and heard that no one got COVID. Had 2,500 people on board. That was Brad. But and that leads me to our next story, which is, and you shared with me a few days ago the story about. What were they? It was something like Be Together. It was, in other words, Boston pushing their mandate, created this website that was supposedly like, making it fun to follow vaccine mandates, right? But now you have Washington, D.C., you have San Francisco, you have New York. All of these major cities Chicago are all now starting to require individuals who want to go to a restaurant, who want to go outside anywhere, they're now forcing them to actually go and get, to show their proof of vaccination. And this is all major blue cities.
Yeah, exactly right. And down in Florida, we're doing this.
Right. So when folks are planning while folks are planning their vacations, they're looking at places like Florida. Because why would you come to California or go to Los Angeles or go to Chicago or any place like that when you know that you're going to have to show a proof of vaccination?
And even the word down here, we were having a conversation about it earlier today, a colleague of mine, and there are some people that think they can ask you for the vaccination card, or they can ask you if they're vaccinated. It's against the law here to prove you're vaccinated. So what people are doing now is, are you vaccinated? You betcha. Sure am. Yep. Whatever you want to know. And because they cannot make you prove it. If they do, it's a $5,000 offense every time they do. So anybody in Florida gets asked, you vaccinated? You go, yep, sure am.
Yep. I took the shot.
That's it. I'm inoculated.
I'm like this. When they ask for proof of vaccination, right there.
Yep.
Right there.
That's
my proof.
See it? Right there.
Right there. Actually, no, it's actually right there. Just go ahead. Look, right there. Right there. And then shoulder check them.
You go whack.
I
always do it. I go, hey, man, I ever show you where the horse bit me? And people go, what? And then you just go whack. You give them one right in the
exactly. That's how you do it. That's how it's done, folks. That is how it's done. But yeah, so major cities are now going to be requiring that. Now, and here's the reason why. The main reason why they're now requiring it, and everyone is losing their minds, and people are canceling flights. You got places canceling flights because there's this drastic increase, this major increase in COVID cases. But the cases that we're seeing are, well, they're Omicron. Now, Mike, we have a nickname for Omicron. What is the nickname that we use for Omicron?
Omicold.
Omicold, right? And
I got the Omicold.
I got the Omicold, and the reason why I wanted to make it a point to point that out is because we actually have just had. Now, mind you, Omicron represents about 73% and growing of the number of new cases in the United States, right? And yet we've just had the first death, the first person who has died of Omicold. Now, this story in particular, they make it a point to point out that he was unvaccinated, but they also point out that he had a number of other diseases, issues. I mean, he had a ton of comorbidities. And once again, I just find it a little disingenuous that they felt the need to point out that he was unvaccinated. But the fact is that we're losing our minds over this disease where literally there's been, I think, one death internationally, and there's been one death in the United States.
Well, do you know why, Craig? Aren't you listening to the news?
Why?
And people are not getting Omicron.
No, everyone's getting Omicron. Have you not been watching the NBA and the NFL and all these people? Everybody who's getting it is getting Omicron.
Wait, did you just ask me if I'm watching the NBA or the NFL?
Yes, I did.
right?
Look,
I mean,
if you're
I think I
watching
say it 3
any
times a
news,
show.
if you're watching any news at all, you know that everybody's getting Omicron. You've probably got Omicron right now.
Don't watch the news anymore. Don't.
Yeah, buddy,
I get my news from you when you text it to me.
Yeah,
Tell me what the stories of the day are.
a buddy of mine who's a comedian. He was telling me, and I asked him about Omicron. He's like, Omicron? When that brother get out?
Yep.
Yeah,
Wu-
here's the
Wu-Tang.
thing. Omicron is likely the version of COVID that is going to help us go from a pandemic to an endemic. In other words, it's one that's going to be highly contagious. All of us are going to get it. We're going to get stronger antibodies. And then it's going to be like the flu or a cold that comes around every year. People are going to get it. People are going to get sick. And still, just like with the common cold, some people are going to die from it. That is just eventually that's the track that these things take. And
The weak ones. Yep.
right. Well, but some people, I'm sorry, but if you're walking around and you are morbidly obese and you already popping a bunch of pills for a bunch of different stuff that's wrong with you, and then something else adds on top of that. I mean,
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to sound nasty or whatever, but the people that die from these diseases are those that have compounding factors from other issues or the weak. Their immune systems are not as strong as everybody else's.
Right.
They are not as healthy as everybody. You're not as healthy and as strong. You know what that makes you? Weak.
Sorry, I hate that. But that's also why you see so many people who are elderly. A high percentage of those who are elderly.
I mean, listen, it may not be politically correct to call the elderly weak, and it's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to insult, but those with weaker immune systems and those that are not as healthy are the ones that are going to suffer from this. I'm not trying to be cavalier about it. I'm just stating, medical facts.
Well, exactly. And that's why what makes me frustrated with this whole thing, it's always made me frustrated with this whole thing, is we treat everyone like they are at the same risk. And like every activity comes with the same risk. How about this?
Yeah.
How about we determine what are the high-risk activities and the high-risk locations? And then we determine who's at the greatest risk. And then we do this. We make sure we try to keep people who are at the highest risk from participating in the highest risk activities.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's why we don't let the morbidly obese, those people that have asthma or the elderly, we don't let them join the military. They've done their part, or they were not ever able to. You don't send the lessers in to do the more difficult task. It's just, and again, I'm not trying to be insulting to anybody, but nobody's calling Batman when he's 80. It's just.
Maybe you're not going to call Batman.
He might still
when he's
be rich.
80. I'm going to call Batman when he's 80 because he's still a billionaire.
Well, I'm gonna call him for a hookup. Like how about a little cash,
I love that one scene in Justice League where the Flash asks him, and so what exactly is your superpower? He says, "I'm rich."
I'm rich.
Hey, I'll take that superpower.
I bought the bank. So you bought my house back? I bought the bank.
I bought the bank. Nice stuff. Yep. Okay, moving right along. All right. So you guys may have heard recently that the Secret Service announced that there's been over $100 billion, billion, bigger than most states' budgets, $1 billion of fraud, right? We're not talking misrepresentation. We're not talking about mistakes. We're talking about fraud, right? When it comes to COVID relief funds, in particular in the unemployment era. And I can tell you right now, about 30 billion of that was in the state of California, where they were sending money to prisoners, people who were in jail. That's right. People who were in jail were receiving unemployment funds through COVID. And when asked about it, well, the Biden administration decided that they were going to downplay it. And here's a little segment where they were asked, where Jen Psaki was asked about it in the press conference.
Secret Service announced that up to There's been nearly 100 billion at a minimum stolen from the pandemic relief funds. Can you talk a little bit about how this happened, and if, now that the administration sees this problem, if you're ramping up any efforts to crack down on this kind of fraud?
Well, I would note first that we expect them to clarify this was also a concerning headline we saw ourselves, but there is no new research, data, or analysis of fraud here. So just to give you the specifics, what happened is there was just an adding up of 2 old IG reports of well-known challenges at small business loans in states getting out UI payments in 2020, and there's been a lot of reporting, I know, from the Associated Press and others about issues with some of those earlier programs. So it's also important to note that even those 2 older analysis combined payments that include mistakes in over and under payments, but it was a reference to 2 older IG reports.
Okay, and then one more on COVID.
Now, Mike, I want you to recognize something here real quick. Recognize that she never answered the question.
I'm trying to focus on what she said. I was too busy looking at her eyes.
Oh God,
That's
Mike.
that's my girl. That's my girl Jen.
You need to get over this thing, man. Look, she is the devil. Works for the devil. Let's put it that way. Come on now, man. She is just tempting you so that you will not pay attention to the words that are coming out of her mouth.
Listen, here's this. I thought it was scary when I first started listening to her because, like, wow, how could this woman lie so freely and so easily and just spout these things like it's no big deal? And then I realized, well, no, she believes it. It's not a lie to her. She believes it. So that makes it okay with me. Now she's wrong. We know that. Right. But she's not lying, because I don't like a woman that lies to me. I don't like anybody that lies to me. But she's not lying. She believes it. So I'm back all right. I'm okay with her now. I'm okay with her. Don't you think she looks like Emma Stone a little bit like Emma Stone?
You like her?
Yeah, like Emma Stone.
The only thing they have in common is red hair, and one of them looks like they have real red hair, and one of them does not, or maybe they're just different shades.
Still, you signals to make a phone call. First, they look at you with a blank stare, and then they go like this.
Like
they don't know what to do. Yeah.
Oh, hey, Brian says she's a redhead. She has no soul. Is that how it works?
Oh, she's got soul. She's just collecting them from others.
There you go. So she's got plenty of soul.
Yeah, she's a
just none of them originally belonged to her. Is that what it was?
Oh, no. She steals souls from people. Yeah. Listen, I clearly know that I'm under her spell. She's evil. She's not that great, but I'm under her spell.
There's absolutely no denial there. Absolutely none.
Yeah. Yeah. So come on.
All right.
It's almost Christmas, Jen. Call it, brother.
Let's move on to our parting shot. So I'm perusing Facebook, as I'm known to do, looking for interesting stories to talk about on here. And I saw that someone had posted a Google search, right? And in the search bar, they typed, "Can men get pregnant?" And there was a thing came up, and I'll be honest with you. I honestly thought, I said, you know what? There is no way that this is real. I mean, somebody had to fake this thing up in order for this to appear, right? Pregnant. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible for men to become pregnant and give birth to children of their own. Now, Mike, the reason why you know that this is real, that I did this, that I looked this up, is that's my little picture up there in the corner so that was my Google search on my phone.
Okay.
And this is from a page called Healthline. And this, by the way, was the first thing that came up. The very first, and once again, I didn't say, can trans men or, cisgender. I didn't talk about transgender, nothing. All I said was, can men get pregnant?
I'm just happy you didn't share the rest of your Google searches. That's all.
My Google searches are I would have no problem sharing my Google search history with anyone.
Okay. Got it. I'll leave that there. I don't want you incriminating yourself any more than that.
No, I'm a good Christian man. I will not have you impugn my integrity.
Never on a work computer anyway. You know?
Mike, just so y'all know, Mike's the bad one here. I'm the good one, right? So when there's the angels and the devil sitting on your shoulder, I'm the one in the white suit. You know, he's the one with the horns.
Yeah, you got a white suit, but it's Boss Hog, and he's like, "You get him more, get him."
Anyway, you did though, however, bring up one example of a man who did get pregnant. Right?
Yes,
Mike
yes. I made this mistake on the air once before. Yeah,
Yeah, and in fact, there was a story of an individual who, by the way, is a very famous individual, former governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, did get pregnant. It was in a movie. It was Hollywood, so it clearly happened, right? Because it was in a movie, it is clearly proof of the fact, of the truth, that it can, in fact, happen.
Well, listen, if you remember, he got with the maid, and they had a child out of wedlock. Maria Shriver was not the mother. Well, here's the proof how it happened. You know, this is why this kid looks so much like Arnold, because it's Arnold's kid. You know,
It's Arnold's kid. He birthed did him.
He did. Yeah, just like that. There you go.
Okay, sir. Well, I guess that's going to be it for today's show. To be honest, man, we had one commenter, and he gave us a whole bunch of really good comments.
Sweet. So he wins a romantic dinner with you in Vegas during SHOT Show. I think that's the prize for today. Congratulations, Brian. You can collect that after midnight on Wednesday of SHOT Show in Vegas. He'll meet you outside the Blue Oyster, and we'll go from
Tell the man what he's won.
That's it. We've got an 80% lower piece of America's greatest non-assault rifle you ever got. So
There you go. There you go.
Reach out to us. We'll get you a nice chunk of 80% aluminum T7075 aluminum that will help you start your next project.
Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan.
Yep.
So, all right, folks. Hey, as we get ready to wrap it up, want to remind you, please make it a point to visit our sponsors. We have Guerrilla Machining, we have Grid Defense, and we have the California Republican Assembly. All America-loving, God-loving organizations and businesses that are fighting to keep America free. So, and by the way, also supporting the Rundown. So, visit them.
That's it. Thanks for joining us. Have a great Christmas. We'll see you in a couple of days. Until then, don't forget, Jen, give her brother a call.
Merry Christmas, y'all.